Writing Matters with Dr. Troy Hicks is a Writable podcast. Find more episodes and subscribe on your favorite platforms. And if you want to learn how to grow great writers, check out Writable.com. In this episode, Troy speaks with Gerard Dawson, a high school teacher of 8 years, author of Hacking Literacy, an education blogger, and host of the new podcast series, The EdTech Startup Show. Gerard and Troy discuss how their teaching methods have changed since the start of their careers and what drives them to teach writing to students year after year.
Welcome. Today we are speaking with Gerard Dawson, who I originally met when he reached out to me through my blog in 2014, talking about his experience reading one of my books, Crafting Digital Writing, which I look forward to talking a little bit about some digital writing and other things with you today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Troy. It's funny. I was just thinking about how we initially connected. It's cool. It's been 5 years. We've on and off had lots of good conversations about teaching, writing, and technology since then. So I'm happy to be talking to you.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to hearing some more about what you're doing right now, especially around this idea of digital health and screen time and thinking about what's going on with the kids in your classroom as well as the kiddos you have at home. I know it's a question that I have in my house with my teenagers all the time. So we're going to jump right in and get to it. I wonder if you could give a little bit of a background on where you're at in your teaching career and what your day-to-day teaching life looks like right now.
Yeah, sure. So right now I am a full-time high school English teacher in Hightstown, New Jersey at Hightstown High School, which is part of the East Windsor Regional School District, right in the elusive central New Jersey, which some people claim does not exist, either in the north or the south. But
Gotcha.
I've been teaching there for this is my 6th year and 8 years in high school classroom overall. Is that correct? Yeah, well, time flies. So I teach, this year I teach all sophomores, for just a couple different of the English courses that we offer here, including one that I'm really enjoying exploring, which is a combined English and history humanities course, where we do some interdisciplinary projects and the content, really ties together across the two courses. So that's what my current situation of teaching looks like. And then as you mentioned, on my off hours, I also spend some time writing about teaching and education and technology as well, just exploring things that are on the top of my mind and things that I'm trying out in the classroom.
Fantastic. And you said all sophomores right now, all day long?
Yes. So 15.
Good on you. Good on you. Having a sophomore here in my own home. So, fantastic. Well, let's get right to it. As I mentioned, we can probably talk philosophy about teaching writing for an hour or longer, but I'm really interested in hearing from you, like, what is your go-to strategy? Knowing, of course, you've got a whole toolbox and multiple things that you could pull from. What's working really well for you right now with those sophomores? What's the strategy that you've been trying out this year and having some success with?
Yeah, good question. So I like this question because it's really a place where I've changed my mind over the past few years of teaching. If you asked me 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, I probably would have said basically focusing on motivating, inspiring, offering options for topics, and letting students kind of run wild from there. While those are still important parts of my teaching, right now my go-to strategy is really showing students options for what their writing could look like, not telling them what it should or has to look like, but basically that takes the form of presenting models or outlines or structural arrangements, or even at the sentence level, sentence templates, especially with some of my students who are, for example, recently exited ESL or English language learners. So really my go-to strategy right now is giving students lots of options for what their writing can look like, so they can focus on two parts. One, so they can focus on putting their good ideas into those structures, and two, so they get to see lots of examples of what good writing looks and sounds like, so they can begin to internalize those styles and structures and then eventually begin to make them their own.
That's great. And if the question of just picking the one strategy wasn't hard enough, maybe I could ask you to pick one mentor text, at least something that's come up for you in the last week or two. Have you found a particular essay or book or even that one great sentence that has helped inspire some of your kids?
One that I'm just coming back to a lot right now is, it's a popular one. They Say, I Say, the moves that matter for academic writing, because I've found, and I'm not the first person to talk about this. I know Dave Stewart, whose blog I read often, he writes a lot about how argument is a way to engage kids in almost any text or topic that you have in the classroom. So some of the templates and structures that are in They Say, I Say, I think that's by Jerry Graff and I can't remember the other author right now.
Kathy Birkenstein.
Yeah. Right. Kathy Birkenstein. Yep. Thank you. That's been one of my go-tos this year.
Excellent. Great. Well, and just as a little tech tip, have you found that Google Doc that's out there where you can copy and paste all those templates for your students? I think Dave might have created that, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I think he did. And it's linked to all of my Google Classrooms for my different sections, and we refer to it frequently.
Awesome. We'll try to get that in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So as we kind of think then about moving from the teaching strategy into the providing feedback, this effort that all English teachers are making all the time in order to get their students moving forward, what is working well for you in particular as a teacher trying to provide feedback to your students? And maybe even what's working well for your students as they're providing feedback to one another?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question. Again, this is something where I'm always evolving and changing, trying out a new approach. Really, just now my approach is trying to make it sustainable. Now with having 100 or more students as it can be, and wanting them all to write a lot, I find that quick feedback fast, ideally right there in class while the students are writing, is my favorite approach. And things like Google Docs themselves or GoGuardian, and being able to easily click into students' documents, leave them a quick note, even in the chat function where we can have a quick digital conference and they can keep writing right away. That's how I've tried to modify the typical writing workshop to give students lots of feedback in an efficient but sustainable way. Also, you mentioned the link to the Google Doc with They Say, I Say templates in there. Sending students resources and giving them links that they can use to evaluate their own writing and make their own corrections or revisions is something I like to do as well, as opposed to just telling students, here's what to fix, here's how to fix it. So that's, I guess, in terms of me to the students' feedback. I'm also really interested in peer-to-peer feedback, just because I think when it's very hard to do right, but when done right, it really, I think, just raises the level of the engagement and the community in the classroom, and even the seriousness devoted to the writing task. When you can get all the kids to be genuinely looking to help each other improve, I think that's a great situation. So I've definitely tried out and enjoyed using Writable for peer feedback. It's interesting because before Writable was available, I was trying to do something similar with paper or just with Google Docs, of having students share with each other. And while it's possible, it's clunky and would kind of waste time. So I really like how students are able to basically anonymously view each other's essays in quick succession and give each other feedback, because it improves the writer's piece as they get peer feedback, but then it really improves the reviewers' writing ability when they see the examples of what's possible from their classmates, and also when they're asked to view their classmates' writing through the lens of an evaluator and a responder. I really like that process of having students view a few examples of their classmates' writing to give feedback and response to it.
Wonderful. Good to know that you're able to find that kind of balance and that time where you're able to give them that feedback, allow them to see the ways that you provide that feedback. They have other tools and resources that they can then draw from as they provide feedback to one another. So really good to hear. Well, yeah. So what is it that is on your mind? What's fueling you right now with your teaching? We know that teaching always takes that extra bit of motivation and encouragement and support. So what's fueling you? What defines your work as a writer, as a teacher of writing? And what are you working on right now that's helping to keep you motivated and keep you going?
Mhm. Well, I think we teach in a very unique time with the rapid rate of change that's happening worldwide and certainly within education too. But I'm kind of comforted by the fact that literacy and the need for it is not going anywhere. Maybe we have different tools, different media, but those who can read, write, speak, listen, critically think, evaluate well, will, I think, be able to, make a good life for themselves, or at least improve their situation. It's just a foundational belief for me. So because in my own life, I've had people who've taken the time to introduce good books to me, or read my writing and respond to it. Um, that's really what motivates me, is to give students literacy skills that, while even if none of them become English majors in college, as my mentor and supervisor from student teaching, Bill Souter, he told me, you have to teach your students as if maybe a few of them will be English majors, but probably not. How would that reframe things? So just with I think the utility of being able to read and write well, that's what motivates me to teach my students, and also just being as you kind of hinted at, what am I working on? Just being a practicing writer and loving it keeps me motivated, because I get to work with the craft that I enjoy every day in school. Of course, it can be, it's a little daunting and can be tiring to help 100+ students improve at writing. Just getting to work with that craft with the students every day is something else that that really motivates me. And you mentioned a little bit before about the topics that I'm interested in. I'm really looking right now to explore, in what ways do we use technology to improve education? In what ways do we need to be mindful of a healthy approach to use technology in education too? So that's something I'm exploring in my own writing and trying to see what implications it has for my teaching too.
Yeah, I really appreciate that list of questions that you generated just a few weeks ago with one of your earlier blog posts on that theme. And we'll definitely be sure to get a link to that in the show notes. But could you remind us what's the URL if somebody's listening and wants to type in and jump to your blog right away?
Sure. So there's the www.gerarddawson.org is the URL. And one of the recent posts there, I think it's 32, something like, I got a long list of questions, 32 unanswered questions for using technology in a healthy way or something along those lines. Basically, it's just all the things I'd like to explore that I think, both educators and parents and school leaders too need to at least consider, if not answer definitively, relatively soon as we kind of rapidly embrace technology in the classroom and our personal lives. So it's not really a doom and gloom approach where technology is ruining our minds, but it's not a completely utopian optimism approach either, where technology will fix everything. I'm trying to look at it as objectively and pragmatically as possible to decide, how can we use these tools to learn more and teach better, but how can we do so while also, keeping our minds and our bodies as healthy as they can be.
Yes, and again, I'll just echo, I really appreciate that you're bringing both a critical stance, but also a creative and forward-looking and a stance that tries to get us to maybe rethink our relationships with the devices, both ourselves as educators, as well as our students, and how they could be using their devices as well. So I really appreciate your time today. I know you're right after school at the moment we're recording this and need to get on with the rest of your afternoon. So thank you ever so much for all you do each day for your students and for taking the time.
Thanks very much, Troy. It's great to talk to you.
Writing Matters with Dr. Troy Hicks is a Writable podcast. Discover more episodes and subscribe on your favorite streaming platforms. Or check out filmed episodes on YouTube. Writable offers more than 600 writing prompts and assignments, with a range of feedback and assessment tools to help you build more purposeful, proficient writers. Learn more at Writable.com.